Imagine this for a moment. You're chasing blossoms across the country, following the seasons, right?
Hmm.
Spring, you're in Yunnan with these vibrant wildflowers. Summer, maybe melons in Xinjiang. Autumn, wild fruits in the Kunling Mountains. And then winter, a bit of rest.
Yeah.
It paints quite a picture, doesn't it? This sort of free-spirited life just following the bloom.
It really does.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking you on, well, quite an incredible journey into the world of nomadic beekeepers in China.
Yeah, it's a fascinating world.
On the surface, it might seem idyllic, like we said, but what we found in our sources, it reveals something much deeper, a reality full of unexpected challenges, huge sacrifices, and a profound meaning behind it all.
Definitely not just about the honey.
No. So for this deep dive, we're exploring some really fascinating observations, personal accounts, including the story of a young woman, Yueyue. She actually chose to return to this life with her father, a veteran beekeeper.
It's quite a story.
Our aim today is really to unpack that reality behind the romantic illusion. Look at some surprising facts about bees, about beekeeping, and, uncover the human motivations driving this really unique way of life.
Okay, so that idyllic picture you painted, it's appealing, but the sources hit you pretty fast with the contrast.
How so?
Well, the reality is wherever these beekeepers go, they're often treated like outcasts. Locals might avoid them almost like stray dogs, is how one source put it.
Wow, really? That's harsh.
It is. And living among those flowers, it comes at a steep price. You're talking sleeping outdoors, no access to baths, toilets, electricity, even just eating becomes a real problem.
So that rustic charm fades pretty quickly, I imagine.
Very quickly. It becomes suffocating is the word used.
And this is where it gets really interesting with Yuyu's observation, right? She grew up seeing these amazing landscapes, flowers everywhere, but her father.
Exactly. He never really stopped to admire them, not the flowers themselves.
Because for him, the beauty wasn't the flower.
It was the honey, always the honey. That was the goal, the product, the survival.
Such a powerful insight. It really shifts your perspective on what beauty means in that context.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of that relentless focus, the bees themselves are just incredible. Each hive, an independent kingdom, tens of thousands of them,
It's amazing.
collecting nectar, building comb, making honey, day in, day out, and, like the source says, without asking for a single wage. There was that detail about a bee bumping its leg on pollen.
Oh yeah, bumping into a golden pollen sac and just effortlessly switching legs to keep going. Pure efficiency.
Incredible, but then you learn about their lifespan.
Right, and it's astonishingly short, especially when they're working. A worker bee might live 90 days if it rests.
Yeah,
But during the honey season,
it's much less.
most die within 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
And things like rain, pesticides, they just speed that up.
30 days, that's wow. And the output from that short, intense life.
That's the really poignant part, a single bee in its entire life.
Yeah,
You won't make enough honey to even cover one slice of bread.
goodness. So it really makes you ask.
What is their life for? What's the point of all that effort?
That's a profound question for a bee, but it makes me think, does that same question echo for the beekeepers, given the struggles you mentioned?
Oh, absolutely. And that leads us straight into the sheer physical and financial hardship they face.
It's not just wandering around with some boxes.
Not at all. Moving the bees, it's a massive effort. Each box weighs over 100 pounds.
100 pounds each.
Yep. And a true beekeeper, they say, is strong enough to lift 2 at once. Imagine that physical toll.
That's staggering. And it's not just the weight, right? The timing of the move is critical.
Absolutely crucial. They have to move overnight. Yeah. Because daytime temperatures inside those boxes, they can shoot above 40 degrees Celsius.
Which would kill the bees.
Exactly. It risks the entire colony. And any bees that don't make it back to the hive before they pack up and leave,
What happens to them?
they're just left behind. They'll circle where their home used to be until they die.
Ah, that's brutal. Unnecessary cruelty, I suppose, for survival.
It's part of that harsh reality. And then you layer the financial struggles on top of that.
Yeah, the sources mention some really tough times. Like in Hunan, the rapeseed flowers withered early.
Right. They hadn't sold any honey. Money completely ran out. They had to borrow cash just to fund the next leg of the journey.
And even when they made it somewhere promising, like Henan for the Polony blossom.
Exactly. They arrived just in time for the purple Polonia and the green wheat fields, and then bam, floods, constant setbacks. They're completely at the mercy of nature.
Wow. It sounds relentless.
It is. And this constant cycle of struggle, it shapes the father's philosophy, this idea of necessity and learning to let go.
Is that where the story about the cat comes in? Blue eyes?
Yes, exactly. Yueyue's beloved cat goes missing while they're driving. She's frantic, wants to stop,
Uh,
but her father refuses. He won't turn back.
because.
Because in this life, you learn to shed anything non-essential.
Yeah.
Whether it's a lost cat or those abandoned bees we mentioned, or even, painful old memories. You just have to keep moving forward.
That's a really stark way to live. Letting go of a pet like that, it hits hard.
It does. And it connects to Yueyue's own complex family history, too, doesn't it? Her mother staying behind.
Right, for Yueyue's education, but then finding someone else. And Yueyue has these mixed feelings, resentment, pity. But ultimately, she says something powerful.
I've come to take her back.
Yeah. It hints at so much beneath the surface.
And what's fascinating is getting to the father's core motivation.
Yeah.
Why does he do this? Decades of it, wind, sun, hardship.
That wasn't really a choice.
Not really. He says it himself, because there were no other options. And he compares it to gambling. Beekeeping is like gambling. I've bet my whole life on it.
A lifetime debt. And Yueyue, why did she choose to come back to that life?
It seems almost too simple, but it's profound, she says. He once mailed me 2 bottles of honey.
That's it, just the honey.
That gesture, those 2 bottles, clearly meant the world to her. It represented something deep.
That small detail, yeah, speaks volumes. And you see the father's vulnerability, too. That moment Yueyue finds him worrying.
Worrying? Because he hadn't sold any honey. She comes back from doing some volunteer work, finds him sitting alone, looking defeated.
And she tells him.
She just quietly tells him, bees bring blessings. And the source says he cried.
Wow. Such a quiet, powerful moment of connection.
It really is. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it starts to feel like they aren't just chasing flowers or even just the honey itself, not in that romantic way.
What are they chasing then?
It seems like they're fighting to give their children the power to choose, to have the options, the different life that they never did.
So that's the romance, the sacrifice for the next generation's freedom.
Exactly. That's their kind of romance, a romance rooted in sacrifice and hope.
And the sources point out these contrasts, don't they? Like in the city, maybe you have a stable 9-to-5, a life that looks poetic on paper.
Right. While out in the wild, these people face intense struggle, day after day, but they still manage to find joy, to last like children sometimes.
A different kind of fulfillment, maybe.
Perhaps. And it all circles back to the father's powerful statement, beekeepers are bees.
All my hopes are riding on these flowers. There's no other way.
He lives by that. And it's not just any flowers. He focuses on specific high-value ones, like the acacia flowers in Gansu.
Ah, is that the one where locals say?
Yeah. 10 trees of acacia yield 1 drop of golden honey. And apparently, real connoisseurs only want acacia honey. It's about precision, dedication, aiming for that rare, perfect yield.
So, wrapping this up, what does it all mean? We started with this image of a free-spirited, poetic life.
Yeah, chasing flowers.
But what we've really seen is, well, a grueling battle for survival. It's filled with immense sacrifice and this incredibly deep commitment to family.
The beekeeper's life, it really mirrors the bee's life in a way. All that effort, that dedication.
Not really for themselves, but for a legacy, right? For the next generation to have choices, that chance to choose their own path.
It's a profound transfer of hope.
And we'll leave you, our listener, with this final thought, a tasting note from the source, actually. It says, "The sweetest honey I tasted wasn't the spoonful I devoured, but the small golden